Hey folks, Species 7 here. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back, that's just not going to plow in, to Farm Sim 17 and Spectacle Island. Oh boy, I'll tell you, I've been working here on the farm for about 2 hours already this morning, and managed to get most of the stumps ground away. That was quite an exercise in itself. The stump grinder from Black Sheep Modding there. It's a great device for getting rid of trees, but I've noticed on every single map I've used it on, it seems to have a slightly different hitbox. On this map, you actually have to be a good 5 feet away from a stump, and just on the very edge of where the hitbox shows that it's cutting. Otherwise, it just will sit there and eternally generate chips, as opposed to actually grinding the stump. So, that was kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt, so I spent like an hour and a half grinding stumps out of the field. But, I chose not to thrill you guys with that particular piece, and then trying to figure out what kind of an angle this field was at. It's just bizarre. GPS doesn't work. It won't put lines down for some reason. I don't know why. So that wasn't much value to me in trying to get an edge onto any side of this field. And the hired workers, because you've got an impenetrable mountain on this side and an impenetrable hedge on the other, was pretty much next to useless. I'm hoping having a 20-foot thick hedgerow might help me out here. Yeah, see, look where the hired worker wants to go for an angle. And then that's it. He's going to think he's done. Yeah. That's what I mean. You know. GPS seems to think the field is, well, proper angle to the map. The hired workers seem to think it's on some proper angle to the map. So basically what it boils down to is I have to do the entire thing by hand. So, and I'm not using create field. Not using a plow that I like either, let me tell you. Just because the field shape is not quite what it shows on the map at all, unfortunately. So, but we'd like to get this done. It's already getting late on into the evening. So I think what I'm going to do is this. Let's see how he does. Let's see how he does. Because I really would rather get on with some other things. I hadn't meant to spend the entire evening here. Well, I said the stump grinding took just a ton of time. And of course the Brucks will not cut stumps. So I did have to have a second machine. The only one I've actually found that seems to consistently cut stumps really well is the one for the skid steer loader. Oh, what are you gonna do? Really? Unbelievable. So we're not even gonna get a row out of you, huh? Bloody incredible. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm finding with each play on this map that I'm really not as fond of it as I hoped I would be. I liked the concept of, having the creation of our own fields and such, but the fact that there is, in fact, fields here on the map, they're just covered in grass and trees, it's just not the same. I'd almost just as soon start with normal fields so we could at least do normal farming. Alright, see there, it didn't even finish the row. And now you're going to do just a complicated enough thing that you're purposely going to leave a gap. Oh, maybe it'll get it on the backswing here. No, it's purposely going to leave that chunk. Ugh. Next to useless. I'll tell you what, you can go get yourself stuck against the hill. I don't even care anymore. I really don't. I'm going to try this thing on plow mode and see if I can help out. Although, being the articulating one, it's going to be hard as heck to keep it where I want it. Okay, so... Oh, I don't really want allow create fields. Enable the plow, that's what I want. Well, it's better at plowing than it is at stump grinding. Oh yeah, look at that. Didn't even finish a single row. Or actually, I should say finished exactly one row. Unbelievable. Absolutely useless. Absolutely useless. Why don't you just go sit off here in the bush where you're not of any harm to anyone? Yeah, I don't know how this is gonna work out here. It's definitely as far out as that edge pushes, so alrighty. Trying to get this evened up. What's up, buddy? What? What? Really? Yes, well, you said hello. Yes, you said hello, good boy. What are you doing? It's just been one of those days. Now Dexter just wants to be a little pest. Oh, well, at least he's feeling frisky enough to be a pest, huh, buddy? Stump cutting, wood crushing, plowing. Ooh. Apparently I am doing all of these things. Rest of this done. Oh, it plows backwards or forwards. What do you know, eh? Really interesting. Well, I suppose this is one way to do it. This very front-mounted plow type of thing. I'm not sure how it's managing it with the type of cutter it actually has on it, but there you go. Oh, come on. This is going to take us a while. This straightened out a little bit. That's a little better. Yeah, it's kind of odd that the GPS wouldn't bring up lines. I tried clicking every button there was. Like, I just wanted to get a nice even field edge, at least somewhere on it, but yeah, the GPS just wouldn't. And the field has actually quite an angle to it as well, which I hadn't expected. It looks to be a very rectangular field, but in fact it's really not. Okay, there's no hired worker for this guy. I didn't figure there would be. That's alright. It does rip up the terrain a little bit quicker, and that's what we need. So I'm afraid this isn't a terribly thrilling episode, is it, guys? My apologies. As I said, it got very, very frustrating trying to figure out where the stump would actually cut. So I was using the developer's console to actually see where the and this part doesn't go away. Unfortunately, this bit of grass, I can't get it to plow out. That's alright. So yeah, I used the developer's console to actually see where the hitbox was, and that's what I discovered. You had to be right at the very edge of the cutting box. If you went in even I kid you not, a hair's width past that, and instead of cutting a stump, it would just simply grind and grind and grind and grind. Great, I suppose, if you wanted huge amounts of wood chips, but that's not something we're starving for, I gotta say. And I don't think I can actually get a big enough headland in here to have the hired worker of any use. It just, when there was less, it was actually trying to use a different method to turn at the ends. And one that would have worked with this much headroom. That's why I gave it that much. And as soon as it had this earlier stopping point, then all of a sudden it wanted to do this fancy S-turn thing instead of actually stopping and backing up. Right? But, oh boy. Whoop. Of course, then you run into that too, where articulated machines and MR don't tend to come back to center quick enough to actually turn. That's okay. I've got her. I've got her. Let's do some inside here, just to switch it up. I wonder if, yeah, see, it simply will not produce lines. I don't know. If anybody knows why, let me know. Because it's kind of frustrating. It's the whole reason I have that mod installed, is just for things like this. And when it turns out you can't use it, it sucks. So I really don't know. If anybody's run into that, let me know what the issue is. You know? I mean, obviously, if I'm looking at the map, these fields are here. You would expect that would work whether I'd plowed anything or cut anything down or anything else. I should be able to just roll onto the edge of it and turn the GPS on and get some kind of GPS. But doesn't seem the case. Darn, it's hard to straighten this thing out. Alright, let's get some of this done. Shouldn't take too long, actually. I've got a bit of edge done all the way around. It is a big field, I'll give it that. Down. Awesome. Geez, it looks like I actually did get most of the stumps out of the field itself. I know there's a couple around the edges I missed. But that's okay. As long as they're not going to stop our equipment from running, I think we can live with it. Now I'm hoping this problem doesn't persist once the field is in here. I'd like to be able to use the GPS mod on occasion, you know. Just because, well, let's face it, I can't drive in a straight line. Oh boy. Alright, it's coming along pretty good now. It was a bit of a rough start. Oh boy. So we've been having a little bit of a heat wave out here on the west coast. Well, as far as our heat waves go. I'm sure to most of you it would be laughable. You'd call it a spring day, but excuse me. We actually had about 4 days in a row where it was peaking just over 30 Celsius. And I know that's like a spring day in Australia, but it's a little more than us spoiled West Coasters are used to. It has clouded over today, and there's a little bit of a shot at rain for this afternoon, so very nice. We need it. It's been one of those years that, and we haven't seen this in quite a while, so it's really nice But it's been one of those years out here on the coast where, well, for instance, the amount of bees that are around is just incredible compared to what we've seen in the last few years. Everything went into flower. The seeds on the trees, the cones on the trees, just about breaking the branches off. So yeah, it's a very, very good spring here on the West Coast. I've got beans growing and tomatoes growing and kitty grass growing and catnip and chocolate mint and all kinds of stuff. And it is doing very well. Yeah, I know, for somebody that lives in an apartment, that's a little weird, but I do have a little bit of parking lot out front that works very well, is quite sheltered for planter growing. Any sort of container growing I want to do. And the manager's nice enough to let me do just that. There's actually quite a few people in this building that have a bit of a garden going wherever we can manage. So, which is nice. It's always a really satisfying feeling to have a little bit of something you've grown come into the house and go to your plate. I know not a big fan of hamburgers, but every year, the first tomato I harvest, I make myself the best hamburger patty I can, and when it's all cooked up and ready to go, it's nice, fresh slices of tomato on the top, and it just makes the burger. So, yeah, that's usually the once a year I spoil myself and buy bacon. That way I can make a BLT, one of my ultimate favorite foods. When I did have reason to eat out at restaurants on occasion, that was generally one of the things I would order on a consistent basis, was a BLT. I remember reading years and years ago in Rolling Stone magazine, they did an interview of many bands, from like Leonard Skinner to Emerson, Lake and Palmer was interviewed, Floyd was interviewed, just all kinds of random and bizarre groups of these people. And it was to do with what they found, because they're on the road all the time, what they found to be consistently edible in restaurants. And oddly enough, the BLT came in at the top of the list for just about everyone. So, yeah, this is decades and decades ago that this article was run. But I did actually put it to the test when, as I said, at the time I did still have reason to be doing things like eating takeout or that sort of thing. And, yeah, I guess it's one of those things that it's just, although you can screw up cooking bacon, I'll give you that, and that's generally where the only issues have ever come in. I guess it's hard to make a bad BLT, I mean, obviously tearing up a bit of lettuce and slicing a tomato can't be difficult, so as long as you get a pretty decent crispy bit of bacon on there, dang fine meal. That's still one of my favorites. So, but yeah, I have a couple of varieties of tomato, including one that's supposed to reach a height of about 10 feet of full growth, so that should be interesting. And I run beans because they're great fresh in a stir fry, and I do love my stir fries. Let's just get that little bit that I missed. Good. And then, like I say, some stuff for my kitties. I got their cat grass growing out there, which I grow year round. And I even got a little catnip plant this year. Well, actually, I took a cutting off of one of my neighbor's catnip plant. I said, sure, help yourself, no problemo. So, well, that's cool. I know my kitties both like their nip, so might as well grow your own. Oh, and speaking of grow your own, I'm not sure if Those of you that are not Canadian have been keeping up with the news, but as of just a couple of days ago, it did finally go through the more or less final processes of legalization, and we are now the second country in the world to legalize marijuana. So there you go. Now, they haven't figured out all the details yet. Each province is sort of going to shake their own personal stick at it, but yeah, it's a step forward. I mean, you know, it's an incredibly useful medicinal herb, and the fact that at one point in history, not our history in particular, but some very close neighbors decided that big business should be allowed to step in and forever make it a, well, not forever apparently, but for a good long time make it something that you couldn't have access to. So, good to see that Mr. Justin Trudeau is progressive enough to actually stick with his campaign promise and legalize. Not to mention, they figure that for BC alone, it should be about a $30 billion a year gain in the government coffers. So, kind of makes you wonder why they didn't just do that a long time ago after they killed our fishing and our forestry and our mining and all of that happiness. Alright, look how far we're getting here. Almost have an actual field, guys. It'd be nice to get a second field in here. And we are so close. Now, of course, I'm also one of the very few Canadians that has little to no effect on. Because I've had a medical license for a few years now, due to the fact that, well, you know, they're more than willing when they realize that you spend pretty much every waking moment in some degree of pain or another. Yes, getting old has been just so much fun. But, so, if you're still young and foolish, a word of advice: as much fun as motocross is, be aware of the fact that you're going to look back on it when you get to about my age and go, God, you were a stupid, stupid kid. Oh, well, it was worth it. It was fun. And speaking of worth it, there we go. We have a ginormous field. She's not the prettiest one I've ever done. What can I do over here? I mean, is this edge really as good as it gets, or is there more field here? I'm actually stuck. Yeah, I don't know why they bothered with that little bit in the corner there, to be honest with you. But, you know what? We're outie. Alright, well, that was a fairly major little bit of work. And of course, we'll have to go collect the Dute's tractor, because that's likely what we're going to use for the cultivating section. But I don't think I'm going to get to it here. It looks like we're going to end up with some darkness coming on pretty quick. So, I think we might be just about done for the day here. Ooh, what the heck, man? Huh. Okay, I didn't notice that before. Even turned off, those blades spin with the wheels. Check it out. Now, I wonder... Ah, okay. No, it doesn't. Oh, so the plow actually does put a separate set of blades down. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, very interesting. I wonder if that's why this has such a kind of random hitbox on trees. Because you'll see here, I'll just turn it on and show you. You see that square box around it? Not the wedge-shaped one, but the actual square box down low. And you'll see how it has another box inside of it. Well, those two lines that make those two square boxes, the difference in the length of them, that's where I actually have to line up every single stump. So as you can see, that's not a very thick space. So yeah, it was an exercise in a certain amount of frustration. There we go. But we are now major ahead of the game, because the cultivation will go much quicker with this thing than the plowing. So, but there you go, guys. I think that's going to be it for this episode. We're over the half-hour mark. I've accomplished a huge amount in reality, so I'm going to call it there. Next time I'll hopefully get a hired worker onto cultivating, and we'll get to tend to our animals and do a few other nifty things. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of each other. Remember to share, favorite, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Till next time, though, this is Species 7 for Spectacle Island Farm. Ciao for now. What you say, construction area.